Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Venti hood, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Please go to the link in the description. There you will find both right and left-handed video tutorials, and if you scroll down right below those, there's a link to the written pattern, as well as all the supplies you need. To make this pattern, you'll need a US K hook, which is 6.5 millimeters, 3 colors of Red Heart Soft, or you could go with one, whatever you like to do. And you'll also need stitch markers. Optionally, you can also add some fun pom-poms, which I've attached here with buttons. So if you want to do the same, you'll need buttons, and you can either sew them on with yarn or with matching thread. This pattern comes in 3 sizes, 1 to 2 years, 2 to 5 years, and 5 to 10 years. If you're looking for the adult version, please go to Moogly Blog and search for the Trenta hood. So first, I just want to point out on the written pattern that, as I've said, there are 3 sizes, and so you'll want to make sure to follow the instructions for your size. In the pattern, when the numbers or the row numbers or the stitch counts are different for each size, they'll be listed in parentheses just like this. There's also a schematic to help you with both sizing and assembly, and it's not exactly to scale. These sides here are a little bit more angled than they are here in our drawing, as you can tell by those measurements, but this will help you know and help you decide also which side you do want to make. It also shows where the palms are located and that this shorter end seam, the very last row, is where we fold it in half and seam it up. So if we come over here to the actual hat, I can fold it this way. This one's already been seamed, as you can see here. But if I lay it out this way, this would be sort of the way it's laid out in the schematic, but then fold it in half, and that last row is seamed up. And then that becomes the back of the hat, and we add the palms. To begin this pattern, you'll start with a chain of 89, 99, or 109, depending on the size you're making. But those numbers are based on size. Other than having an odd number of chains, there's no stitch multiple. So after you've chained the number for your size, I'm just going to make a little swatch here for our sample today. Then you skip the chain closest to the hook and half double crochet in the next chain. For this, I really like to work into the back hump of the chain. I find it gives me a nicer finished edge when I'm working the border for my hat, but you can do it however you like. Then we are going to start our repeat that begins with the asterisks, which is single crochet in the next chain, double crochet in the next chain, repeating until just one chain remains. So first we're going to single crochet in the next chain. And again, if you prefer to go under the top 2 loops, you can. And then double crochet in the next chain. And then that's our repeat until we get to that very last stitch. Single crochet in the next chain, double crochet in the chain after that. So keep repeating those 2 stitches until you get to the very last stitch. Okay, so I've worked almost all the way across row 1. I've got a double crochet in my second to last chain and 1 chain remaining. So to finish off this row, I just want to put a half double crochet in the very last chain so that it mirrors the half double crochet in the first chain. So at the end of row 1, you should have 88, 98, or 108 stitches, depending on size. Okay, so now at this point, it depends on whether or not you're going to be changing colors. I used 3 colors so that I could change color every row. If you're using all the same colors, you just continue with the pattern without worrying about the color changing instructions. If you want to use 2 colors, it may be easiest to make 2 rows in each color before you switch so that those ends are on the right end of your work. For now, I'm going to continue with 3 colors as written in the original pattern. So what I want to do is I actually want to stop on that last half double crochet before I've done that final yarn over and pull through. Instead, I'm going to pull up my next color. And I am using these colors in a slightly different order than given in the pattern, simply because in the pattern I start with the white, but that's harder to see for tutorials. And of course, you can pick whatever order you like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to yarn over with my color B and actually finish that last stitch of row 1 with that color. Then I am just going to let those other yarns here, there's the yellow end hiding back here, I'm going to let these just hang out here on the side. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and start row 2 with our chain 1 and turn. And then if need be, I can give these yarns a little tug here to close up those stitches a little bit. And then this yellow end will be hanging out here on this end when I'm ready to pick it up again for my next yellow row. So to continue with row 2, we're going to start with a half double crochet 2 together in the first 2 stitches. So we're going to be decreasing at the beginning and end of every row from now on until we get to the end and we do our assembly. So there are lots of ways to do a half double crochet two together. The most common is to yarn over, go into the first indicated stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over again, go into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through all 5 loops. That's the standard way, but it does create a much bulkier stitch with all those yarn overs. So I like to sort of split the difference when I'm making them, and I alter it depending on the pattern. So you can try the different methods and decide which way is best for you. But I like to start with a yarn over and insert my hook in the first stitch and yarn over and pull up a loop. Then just go straight into the second stitch as if it was a single crochet two together, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and just pull through 4 loops. Now, if you like, you could even eliminate the yarn over on the first stitch and basically just do a single crochet two together. But for this pattern, I found splitting the difference this way seemed to work the best. Again, you can try the different versions and decide how you'd like to do it. After you've got that half double crochet two together, then we double crochet in the next stitch. And this is going to be in the top of a single crochet stitch. Then we single crochet in the next stitch, which is the top of a double crochet stitch. And that's our repeat on across until we get to the last 2 stitches where we'll have another decrease. So we're basically now double crochet, single crochet is our repeat, and any of those double crochets should be worked in the top of a single crochet stitch, and the single crochets should be worked in the top of a double crochet stitch. So just keep going with that 2-stitch repeat, now all the way across until you get to the very last 2 stitches. All right, so I'm almost at the end of row 2 with just 2 stitches left that I can work into. So this is where we work our final half double crochet two together for this row. Again, I'm going to yarn over and go into the first stitch and pull up a loop, and then I'm going to just go ahead and go into the second stitch and pull up a loop. Again, this is not the standard way of doing a half double crochet two together, but it's just a little bit less puffy than the usual way, but not, it doesn't really look anemic. It's still a good substantial stitch there at the beginning and end of the row. So here's what your pattern should look like at the end of row 2, although of course it should be quite a bit wider. We're just making a small swatch here. Now I did go ahead and finish that stitch, but if I'm going to go ahead and change colors, I do need to pull that back off so that I can make my yarn over with my third color. So this is going to be my white one. Again, I'm just going to yarn over with it and pull it right on through. Go ahead and make my chain 1 that sort of help locks it on there, and then leave that end hanging out on the side. I'll go ahead and come back and weave that in when I'm done with my making my hat. So row 3 is, of course, half double crochet two together here at the beginning, in those first 2 stitches there. So we get our constant decreases in on each side. So we get our half double crochet two together, and then our repeat is going to be single crochet in the next stitch and double crochet in the next. So we single crochet in our double crochets and double crochet in our single crochets, just as we were doing before. So we just repeat that on across again until we get to those last 2 stitches where we have our next half double crochet two together. Then we can bring back up our yellow. So I will see you at the end of row 3. So here I am at the end of row 3, and I've started my half double crochet two together, or at least my modified version, but it's time to switch back to yellow for the 4th row. So what I want to do is find the end that's attached and sort of sort it out from all those ends here so we don't get a big mess of ends here worked into it. There we go. And then we're just going to gently bring it right along the side, yarn over, and pull through with it. And after you pull through, you can go ahead and sort of wiggle it back and forth like this. And 2, you can pull down on that white there and sort of tighten that stitch up a little bit. What we want to do is essentially float the colors along the sides. Here you can see that yellow where I've pulled up. When we make our border or our edging for the hat, these little floats are going to get covered up in our border. So the key really is to make sure that you don't pull them too tight, because let's see, if I'll go ahead and pull it in tight here, you'll see that squinches up the whole side of the hat. That's not good. And we also don't want it to be loose and floppy. If you leave it too loose, let me pull it out here a bit. There we go. You can see you're going to have great big loops that are much more difficult to cover on the side of your hat. So like I say, I like to just wiggle the hook and the yarn back and forth like this until it feels like it's just sitting there. That's where it's meant to be. It's happy there. There's no tension, not too much tension, not too loose. It's just ready to go ahead and yarn over for our chain 1 for our next row. So after that, we're going to keep just working in pattern. Rows 2 and 3 are our repeats. We half double crochet two together in the first 2 stitches, and then double crochet in any single crochets and single crochet in any double crochets until you get to the end, and then half double crochet two together again. Just continue to float those yarns up the side. You can see here on this side, we floated up the yellow. So at the next side, we'll want to float up the gray because that's our next color. And there it is right there waiting for us. And that really is the beautiful thing about striping with 3 colors. So just continue to work in pattern until you have a total of 21, 23, or 25 rows, depending on size. I'm going to add a couple more rows here, and then we'll talk about how to cut the yarn and assemble our Venti hood. Now here I have the smallest size of hat. So you can see here I've worked 21 rows, 7 sets of our 3 colors. So I ended on the gray color for my last row. You, of course, can use whatever colors you like, however many colors you like. But here on our little swatch, I'm going to go ahead and end on the gray again. So what you want to do is you need to make some choices here about what color you want to use for your edging, basically. The first one, the one that we made our final row in, we do need to cut this one because we're going to go ahead and use this end to seam it. So when you cut the final color here, you can see I finished our final row in I went ahead and finished that in the same color. We're going to go ahead and cut that yarn, leaving the tail long enough for seaming. And then you can go ahead and finish that off. You can pull it through or just pull it straight on up, however you like to do it. Then we need to decide which one of the other 2 colors we want to use for our border. If you do want to use that same color you had on your last row, that's fine. You can just go ahead and rejoin it. This is just that we don't have to rejoin the yarn itself. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want to use yellow for the border. So I'm not going to cut that one. I'm going to leave it attached, but I'm going to go ahead and cut the white because we're all done with that one. And again, I just want to cut a long enough end to weave in there. So I'm going to ignore that yellow string just hanging out on the side right there. I could go ahead and weave in all my little ends if I want to, but I'm also going to now seam it up. And this is that final row we made. We were actually working this direction, but now we've got our final row. So we're literally just going to fold the hat in half so that those first and last stitches match up together. Then this is where you can pull in your stitch markers and use those to help match up the stitches for your seam. You should have an even number of stitches in your final row here. Let's see, it would be, just an even number of stitches basically. So you can take your first and last stitch and hold those together with a stitch marker, and then just do that every so often as you go up. Of course, you're going to have a lot more stitches on your full-size hat. Then you can take that end you cut with the same color and put it on your yarn needle. Let's see if I can get it on this one here. There we go. And then we're going to mattress stitch seam these up. I do have a separate tutorial for this. I need to pull the stitch marker out of the way here since our seam is so short on our little swatch. But basically, we take our yarn needle and insert it from back to front or inside to outside of our hat through the first stitch on one side, and then do the same thing inside to out on the other side and pull that in tighter. Then we go to the next set of stitches. Here's the first side and then the second side. So using your stitch markers can really help you sort of keep track of those stitches so you don't accidentally end up sewing to the wrong one twice. But on our little seam here, we are already at the end. And I love the mattress stitch because you can really sort of give it a tug here and it really just disappears right into the stitching. Then you can send that needle to the inside and go ahead and weave in that end just like all the others. Then you've got that color you chose for your border already attached and waiting so we can add our border edging. All right, so now we're ready to add our edging. I do want to point out that I cut these ends off really short just so they stay out of our way for this demo, but you'd want to make sure to weave those ends in. So we've got our edging color still attached and hanging out now. What we want to do is insert our hook right near where that color is coming out of our hat. We've got a nice big hole for it right here, so I can put my hook there. If there isn't one, you can kind of just, decide real close to wherever that's coming out. Just go in there, yarn over with it, grab it, chain 1, and you're ready to start crocheting. And we've avoided 2 more ends to weave in. So after that, we're just going to single crochet all the way around the hat. Single crochet all the way across the bottom. And it's okay if you go the other direction if you just happen to like that side of the fabric better. It's totally reversible. But we crochet across the bottom of the hat and then just straight on up the sides. And then when we get to the corners, we put 3 single crochets in each corner, which helps us turn the corner, and then single crochet across. So let's do some of that here together. I'm just going to go ahead and find wherever I think the next stitch would look good. We're working into the sides of rows here that are half double crochets. So you kind of have to use your own judgment. I find with half double crochets, it's probably one of the trickiest ones. Sometimes it works best to work a stitch in the side of every row and then put a 2 in the side of the occasional row, or this 1 in the side of one row and 2 in the side of the next row. However you like to do it. If you want to go around the whole stitch, you can. If you want to split the stitch, you can. The border is really kind of up to you and however you feel it looks best. So I'm just working a simple crochet edging here, single crochets all the way up our side. And again, I'm not really even looking at counting the number of rows or anything. I'm just putting them where I feel that they look good. There we are. So now we've worked our way right up to that corner there. So I would go ahead and put 3 single crochets right in that first stitch, I guess, basically, of row 1 there that we've come to. There we go. And you can see when we put 3 stitches in there, it really pushed us right around the corner there. And now we can continue to single crochet across. And here you can see the advantage of having worked into that back loop when we made that first row. Now we've got 2 loops here at the bottom for us to work into for our edge. And I find that this just seems to give a better finished edge overall, whether you leave it without a border or you're adding a border like I am right now. I really like having those 2 loops to work into. I feel like it just creates a much more solid edging to the piece. So basically, I'm just going to continue single crocheting across here. This is the front of the hat now until I get to this other corner here, the other end of row 1. And then I'll work 3 there and then just continue to single crochet across until you get to that first stitch of the border, and then you can join and finish off. Okay, so the last thing we might want to do is add pom-poms. This is, again, completely optional. Here I have my full-sized finished hat. You can see here is my edging. This would be the inside of the hat, and this would be the outside of the hat. This is the part that would go against the head or the hair. So on the inside corners, let me pull up the other one here, that is where I have sewed my buttons. So you could use thread or you could use the yarn itself. I use the yarn itself to sew these on, but you just want to make sure that you sew these on very, very securely, especially if it's going to be used with a young child. Again, anytime you have anything like this, used with supervision is always advisable. So we sew our buttons to the inside of the hat, and that's because these cute little pom-poms I found have elastic loops, which is fantastic because you can get the look, but remove these for washing, which with kids stuff is always important. So to attach the poms, once you've got the button sewn on, I like to go ahead and use my crochet hook again. It's just a little bit easier. Basically, I insert my hook right by the base of the button there, from the inside to the outside of the hat. Then I can use my hook to grab that elastic loop on the pom, pull it through the hat, and loop it right on over the button. Kind of have to use a little finger muscles here, some muscle power. There we go. And then I can get my hook out of the way there. There we go. And now that pom-pom is just nice and secure there, but you can go back and pull those off whenever it's time for a wash. And that's how to crochet the Venti hood. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial. If you have, please give it a like and let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.